Hello, and welcome to a new segment of the Kip and Company Entertainment Talk Show that I'm going to try out. It's called Let's Rise, and what I'm going to try to do in this weekly segment of the show is address the subject of depression and anxiety and how it affects different people in different ways and how people have dealt with it and success stories and people that are still waiting for their success stories, and basically just everything covering grounds of depression. I'm not in any way, shape, or form a doctor or I'll say professional on the subject. I don't know medically. I don't know exactly what goes on in every brain when you get depression, when you get anxiety. I do know from personal experience that it sucks, something fierce. I personally have suffered from both massive depression and extreme anxiety for most of my life, and I've tried to be pretty open about it. I have to be pretty open about it because if I'm not, people think I'm either an asshole or I'm insane. But I don't hide who I am, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily understand the impact that depression has on some people's lives and on some people's, really, their will to keep going a lot of the time. I myself have had a couple real brushes with suicide. And yes, there has been the cries for help as well, thrown in there, and I'm not going to deny that in any way, shape, or form, but there has been the real attempts, and I know that there's people out there that have been through this or are going through this, and if you've listened to the show at all, you know that I'm not one to script what I'm doing or necessarily write down what I'm doing. I just am sort of, I like to keep it real, and I like to keep it organic and natural, and I'm hoping that we can get some people in here that I've already talked to a couple people on Facebook who have some really good ideas about helping with depression. Like one of them had to do with a new outlet for people who have depression, which is a really interesting idea. I'll let her describe it if we ever get her on here, which I hope we do. And also, this is the first time that we are doing a live video, so this is also new that way as well. I hope that this new platform we're using, the YouTube, is a good way to get because I think both things I'm doing are important, and let's not be mistaken, on these segments, Let's Rise, I still keep the local music in the show. I try to theme it out a little bit to, I'm going to try to theme it out, I should say, a little bit to, songs about depression, of course, with a positive message. But anyway, sorry, the computer just bleeped in my ear and threw me off for a second. But anyway, I am definitely going to keep the local music playing on this show. But as for today, and this is kind of a little offshoot of the actual show, because I'm not saying this necessarily is what today's show would, whether it was a Kip and Company regular episode or whether it was, the 5th episode of this or whatever, I would still be doing this. I had a very close friend for many years ago. I haven't been close with him for many, many years. But I had a really close friend back in late elementary school and all through middle school, who passed away, unfortunately and tragically. His name is Chris Mitchell, and anyone who went to West Jordan Middle or West Jordan High knows who Chris Mitchell is. He was probably one of the most, not even probably, he was definitely one of the most popular kids in the whole school, and I'm not just saying that because my heart hurts for what happened. He really honestly was. He was one of the most popular kids in the school, and it was because of I can't even have I don't even have a word for the amount of sense of humor this kid had. He literally was probably the funniest. I mean, there was 3 or 4 of the funniest kids in the school, and he was definitely among the top 2 of those 4. You know, he you know, and I don't want to get into too many stories because there's a ton to tell, because I spent a lot of time with him in our younger teenage years, which you got to admit are the funniest years of life. If you're going to hang out with someone who's funny, the best time to do it is 14 through 16. So anyway, I did think of one little thing. Now, before I go on, I want to definitely say that condolences to his entire family, to all of his friends that did currently know him. I have not seen Chris Mitchell now I have seen him since high school. I graduated high school 20 years ago, and that was the last I'd seen of him in a long time. But he was, I believe, the manager at the spaghetti factory at one point, and I was there eating, and I saw him walking past, and I called him over and I talked to him for a few minutes, and I remember really, I mean, I hollered from across the restaurant, you know, for him to come over. And there was another time I was, you know, once I knew he worked there, I asked for him, and I saw him again. So I had the luck of seeing him a couple times since high school. That in itself, when I saw him at the spaghetti factory, has been years and years ago. So I have not seen Chris for many years, but he was a dear friend nonetheless, loved by many, and I do want to dedicate this show to Chris Mitchell. Now, that being said, I don't entirely know the circumstances surrounding Chris's passing. I do know that it wasn't of natural causes. These are the facts I know. It wasn't of natural causes, and his body was found. I have a hard time even saying it out loud. I just can't even believe it. His body was found in a creek in the outdoors, and it's just, I can't even imagine what his family's going through. I knew his brother as well. Not nearly as well as the rest of his family. His brother was gone for a while after high school, and I didn't see him at all. But I knew his parents. His dad recently passed. Well, semi-recently passed, not too long ago, as well. So it's at least a little uplifting, if anything, to know that, because I do remember a couple Facebook posts that Chris left that was referencing his dad that had passed, and you could tell that he was really hurting from that. So it's good to know, in my heart anyway, that he is with his dad again. And again, condolences to his brother, to his mom, and to all of his friends that were close to him. I was told by a mutual friend that we had years ago that I believe is still friends with him. So, condolences to everybody. This is a terrible, tragic situation, and not necessarily the way I would have planned on starting this new segment, but at the same time, his services were tonight, and I was not able to make them, and I just live too far away, and my car's kind of having problems right now, and I couldn't make it out there, and I was a little disheartened by that I wasn't able to go out there and give a proper goodbye to an old friend, because we really were really were close when we were close, and I will always remember him fondly, definitely. So, a little more about the show, about what we're going to be doing here on Let's Rise. It's called Let's Rise because I'm not claiming that I'm any type of clinical psychologist or anything like that. I'm not at all. And I don't know anything about it. All I know about depression is what I have experienced in my life. And it's been hard, and it's been long. And throughout periods of my history, I have seen times where people not only don't understand depression, but blatantly out loud say, for instance, I'll just give you I'm thinking of an exact instance here, and I'll just give you the story. I went to college for a little while at the Art Institute of Salt Lake, and I was sitting in one of my classes, and it was actually the psychology class. I was taking a psychology class, and we were talking about phobias and stuff like that, and I don't remember if I personally spoke this day, to be honest with you, but I do remember this girl standing up in the back, and she was speaking to the class, and she stood up in the back, and she goes, "I just don't understand why people," and I'm not quoting her on this, but it was definitely, this is the essence of what she said. It was years ago, but this is the essence of what she said to a T. She said, "I don't understand why people who act like they have depression just can't get over it like the rest of us. I mean, it's already been proven that pills make matters worse, and medication is horrible, and that doctors and that psychiatrists," she even said that psychiatrists were frauds. I mean, she was going into this thing. And like I said, this was years ago, and it kicked me in the soul really hard, because it's bothered me ever since that people think that way, and I've opened my eyes to it a little bit, and I've noticed that there are a lot of people that think that way. And I don't look down on people that think that way. I didn't, I got offended a little bit that she thought that way, but I didn't get outwardly angry, and I didn't, combat at all. But I remember thinking to myself, I did not realize that there are seriously people that don't not only understand depression, but don't agree with it. They seriously think that people need to get over it. And I've thought about this through many different instances in my life, and this whole thought sort of came to a head again when I posted this idea of this segment on Facebook about doing a segment or a show, doing an entire podcast possibly, of dealing with depression. And I got a response back it's actually from one of the artists I'm going to be playing tonight. I got a response back saying, maybe do a segment where you speak to someone who's dealt with the other side of depression. And that really, really, really got me thinking. Sorry, I just realized my volume was really loud on my microphone, so I turned it down, so I'm sure my voice just went from to so sorry about that. But anyway, and he explained himself a little bit, and he said that, talk to someone who's had to deal with someone who is dealing with depression, because that in itself is a difficult task. I will admit that I've seen the brunt end of the depression. I've seen what I've done to, family members, and, with my depression, and I'm sure it's not easy to deal with. I know it's not easy to deal with, and that would be a really interesting conversation to have, and try to come to. I mean, I don't know if he is still. I mean, I'd obviously have to talk a little bit more about this with him. That's really all he said, but it'd be cool to have. I shouldn't say cool. It'd be interesting to have a couple come in, one who's dealing with depression, one who deals with that other person's depression, who obviously are still together, and I'm not gonna bring two divorced people into my house and let them fight it out. That ain't happening. But you know what I'm saying? Just having two people come in and kind of explain both of their sides to someone who's not a therapist. I'm not gonna give any opinion. Well, I mean, I'll give my opinions, but I'm not gonna try to shrink their minds at all or anything. You know, I'm just really interested. Basically, what this is I'm really, really interested in what other people do to deal with their depression. And now that this has been brought up to me, what other people do to deal with other people's depression in their lives. Because this has been a big deal for me. Depression has kept me from holding a steady job. My resume looks like the dictionary because I've been through so many jobs. You know, I've had experiences with in customer service with just the last job I was able to work that literally caused me PTSD because the customers were so angry with me all the time, and I'm not good with things like that. I don't you know, and some people consider it, you know, being a baby and not being able to handle, you know, being a snowflake is kind of the word these days, which don't call me that, by the way, because from what I am gathering of the word snowflake, my opinion of the word snowflake, I am not one of them. This is not a political issue. This is an emotional issue. But anyway, I think it's important, just like getting local music out there, just like getting, you know, interviews and all that. I think it's important to take a little while. And I mean, because I've even talked to some members of some of these bands that I've interviewed after the show, and they have, you know, and we've talked about depression and stuff like that. Because again, I don't, you know, go shaking people's hands saying, hello, my name's Kip and I have depression, like I'm in some type of Depression Anonymous class or something like that. But, you know, if people ask me, like, are you going to be able to make my show this Friday? And I say, you know what, I actually have a really big problem with anxiety, and sometimes I'm not able to make it, stuff like that. You know, I'll be honest. I won't make excuses anymore, because I did for a lot of my life. And, you know, it's just, it's part of who I am. And I think it's time to not only address that in this manner, but to have other people who's willing, of course, to come forward and talk about their experiences as well. Because I believe that it will help other people know that there's other people out there. Because obviously everyone knows that there's people out there that suffer depression. I mean, I think we have the biggest depression epidemic we've ever had. I don't know the statistics on this. Don't quote me, but I would guess and feel confident guessing that we are probably in the biggest depression epidemic that America has ever seen, other than the Great Depression. You know, and it's due to a lot of the social politics that are going on. It's due to a lot of major politics that are going on. The state of our country, the state of the state we live in, you know, religion. That's going to be a big point that I'm going to try to make. Not really make. I shouldn't say I'm trying to make the point. It's going to be an idea that I'm going to explore, and that is, in order to really get out of depression, and this is based on some books that I've read and some things that I've heard and some personal things that I've felt, is not necessarily God, because not everybody believes in God, but is some type of higher power necessary in order to get past. I don't think you'll ever get past depression, but in order to fully own the depression, I guess, for a lack of a better term. I don't want to sit here for 15 seconds trying to think of a term, so I'll just say the first thing that comes to my head. But it is having a higher power, and this is something that I don't necessarily have an opinion on right now. This is something I want to, through talking with people and having conversations with people, I hope to gain an opinion on this. Because frankly, I'm kind of having the whole God crisis in my head right now. I don't know where I want to go as far as my spiritual life goes, and that's a quest that I'm on personally. And I personally right now, like I said, I don't have a set opinion on it, but I am finding more and more evidence that it might be necessary to have a higher power for people who suffer with depression. It's kind of like, and I don't necessarily agree with AA meetings and stuff like that. I agree with what they stand for, but I don't agree with a lot of what they do. And that is, making people feel like they have to stop. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's like in AA where you basically one of the steps is surrender to your higher power. And they strongly believe in there that you're not going to make it through this scenario without some type of higher power, be it God, be it Jesus, be it Buddha, be it football. I mean, virils, like any type of higher power that you find bigger than yourself, that controls something, that pulls some type of strings in your life. I'm finding more and more evidence that I really think that that's necessary. And I'm not landing on that yet, but I'm hoping, again, through conversation and through enlightenment through other people's experiences, that I can find that out. So really quickly, let's get on some music, shall we? Like I said, I wanted to keep I want to keep the theme, and a lot of songs are about depression. That's just the way it is. People, artists are emotional people, and I would dare say, again, don't quote me on this, I don't know the exact statistics, I don't think anyone does, but I would say a good 75% of musicians suffer from some form of depression. So it's really easy to find songs based on depression, but I kind of have a thing where I don't, a lot of them deal negatively with depression, and that's not what this is about. I want to uplift people and enlighten people to feel better and come up with ways for not only myself but for other people to utilize certain, be it, just repeating affirmations, meditation. For me and my wife, we did tarot for a long time, which we do tarot. We haven't done it for a while because I've been so focused on all this forever, but we do tarot, and that helped a lot. Meditation, and my problem, I think a lot of my problem is I don't exercise. I don't exercise for nothing. I am on my tuchus literally 90% of the time. So exercise, how important is that? These are things we're going to discuss. Water. People who drink more water as opposed to people who drink Mountain Dew like me, that could definitely contribute to my anxiety with all the caffeine, and and it's things like this that I want to explore. I want to talk about. I want to see if, I know we'll never get to the bottom of it, but I want to see if we can help people. I want to see if I can help myself, and that is the goal of Let's Rise. So that being said, we're gonna get to some music. I do want to reaffirm that this episode is going out to my friend Chris Mitchell, who has passed away recently, and to his family, who by circumstance hopefully hears this episode. And again, I don't know the circumstances surrounding Chris's death other than it wasn't natural causes, and I don't know exactly how or why, but I do know that he struggled, and I feel comfortable saying this because it even says it in his obituary that he struggled with addiction. I don't know to what exactly, but he I believe, as much evidence as I have, which isn't much, but it's still pretty evident that Chris himself suffered from some depression, and a lot of it, I'm thinking. So, this goes out to Chris, and this goes out to families who have lost people due to this, because and this is another thing. I'm sort of touching base on some bullet points right now that I want to expand on in the future. So don't think that this is me covering stuff right now, because it's not. This is sort of just a first episode. This is what I want to talk about, but I also think it's important to discuss I forgot. I started thinking about this song I have to play. Hopefully it'll come back to me. This is a very natural occurrence, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry about it. All right, so I did get sent a couple songs. Like I said, I wanted to keep them. I guess I didn't even finish my point there with the music, but I was saying that there's a lot of music that deals with depression, but there's only certain songs that have a positive outcome with depression, and I tried to find some of those songs today, and I had quite a few thrown at me. Unfortunately, the ones I wanted to play the most, other than one of them, I was able to get one of them downloaded, but there were three that I really wanted to play the most, and all of the ones that people sent me, I wasn't able to download for some reason, and it was actually pretty frustrating. But I did get one, and as ghetto, I guess, as it is, I'm actually gonna play another one through the phone, holding up to the microphone, because it's an excellent song, and I think it's important that we play the song on this episode, honoring Chris and his family and friends and such, because it is I believe I haven't seen his mom for many years, but last I saw of her many years ago, she was a Christian, and I think that if I recall correctly, and if she's still the same as she was many years ago, she is a believer in heaven and in Christ and all that, and so I hope she's finding peace in that. And the song that I want to play really touches base on that. And again, I'm not a religious person. I'm not even sure where I stand on that, but I'm finding more and more evidence that it is important for people like us who have depression, that we need something like that in our lives in order to get better. So first song I'm going to play is actually by, his name is Nicholas Cheatwood, and he's it's actually older stuff. He's the guitarist for Screaming by Design, which is a band, I believe they're in Utah. Let me go to his Facebook really quick. It says he lives in Washington Terrace, Utah, so I believe, they're a Utah band. And this is older stuff by him, and the song is let me see. God, I had so many songs thrown at me today. I just do not want to get the title wrong. I believe it's called Morning Song, but yep. All right. Yep, this is Morning Song by Nicholas Cheatwood. So, enjoy.
Sun today, pick up here and be on my way. Sword of love and shield of respect, yeah. Conquer demons and keep them in check now. Don't be afraid, he be on his way. Babylon a monster beyond the prey. This is the morning song. This is the morning song. have all got their strides to take. Battle Babylon each and every day. PMA is the only way. Make the monster go dead. My heart is a light in the dark, sighted long before for eye to see so sharp. And as I pass his touch, little can be the best to start. This is the morning sun. 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 And if you don't listen when I speak, passed over like a part of the meek, we might have some problems there. Only giving truth to you, my dear. And as you wake to this song, please come and take the time to sing along. This is the morning sun. This is the morning sun. This is the morning sun. This is the morning sun.
The morning song. That was awesome stuff. So that right there is kind of what I'm talking about. It's a song about life being hard and finding ways to pick yourself up. I really want to play this next song so badly. I kept asking Wiltavius so many times to send me links that weren't working. They just weren't working, and I really felt like I was possibly getting on his nerves, which I would completely and totally 100% understand. I had a lot of bass on my voice there. I should have turned that down a while ago. I didn't want to bother him anymore. So I'm going to rig this up by literally playing Wiltavius's song "Peace Be Still" off of his iTunes, and just holding the microphone, or just holding the phone up to the microphone, which, I think it's going to turn out okay. We're not going to have the essence of, the natural song coming through, but hey, we'll get the natural song and we'll play it again. But I think it's really important that we play this song, like I said, that we it's a good send-off song in my opinion to an old friend of mine that just passed away, Chris Mitchell. So this song is called "Peace Be Still." It's by Wiltavius. Enjoy.
I know it gets hard sometimes, but you got.
See, this is what happens when you do things like this. You started at the wrong spot. Let's try that again. "Peace Be Still," Wiltavius.
I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta keep your eyes on the prize. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta take a step at a time. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta keep your eyes on the prize. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta take a step at a time. Oh na 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 na, oh na na, oh na 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 na. Yeah. There are days when I feel lonely, feel like I ain't worth it, and I just want to give up. Some days I can't sleep at night, got so much hurt inside, and I ask God, oh why? And God said, peace be still, my son. You have so much to live for. He said, peace, be still, my child. It's hard right now, but you'll make it somehow. Oh, yeah. I was so close to the end of the road. So much in my heart that I just couldn't let go. But the Spirit told me, through Christ I can conquer all things, and the things I overcome will go down in history. And God said, peace be still, my son. You have so much to live for. He said, peace, be still, my child. It's hard right now, but you'll make it somehow. Peace, be still, my son, and know that I am God. He said, peace, be still, my child. It's hard right now, you'll make it somehow. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just wanna be alive. I finally wanna be alive. Jesus Christ died for me. Now he's alive. I know that he paid the price. I know that he paid the price, so I can live again, so I can live. I just wanna be alive. I finally wanna be alive. Jesus Christ died for me. Now he's alive. I know that he paid the price. I know that he paid the price, so I can live again, so I can live again. It gets hard sometimes, but you gotta keep your eyes on the prize. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta take a step at a time. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta keep your eyes on the prize. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you gotta take a step at a time. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, oh na na. Oh na 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 na, oh na na, oh na 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 na, oh na na na.
Peace be still, Will Tavius. What a beautiful song. See, now, on one hand, I have to apologize to Will Tavius for premiering that song in that manner. Because it sounded fine. But, you know, in real life, I'm sure, you know, I still have to listen to it. From the way I was listening to it, sounded great, but we'll have to see how the recording of that sounded. So if that did not sound to your liking, Will Tavius, I apologize. It's a beautiful song. We will get that downloaded, and I will play, you know, I'll play it correctly. But on the other hand, be flattered, right? Because I needed that song on this episode so badly that I went to that length to do that. So I guess, I don't know. Either way, great songs. Thank you guys for contributing those. We'll play them often. Yeah, I guess the question of this episode, the question I'm going to leave you with, think about, get at me with your answers if you want, if you would, actually, because I really want to discuss this with people. And let me make myself clear. First of all, the question is, do we need a type of higher power? Do people with depression and anxiety, crippling depression and crippling anxiety, I shouldn't regulate it, any type of depression and anxiety, to get past it in a manner to which is going to be fulfilling, do we need a higher power? Now, that being said, I'm not saying, does everybody in the world need God to make it in life? That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm going back to the AA meetings where it's kind of like that, where they need that in order to keep going. Is that a necessity for people with depression and anxiety? Like I've said, I've tried to off myself a couple times. I've had friends that tried to off themselves unsuccessfully and successfully, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just something I'm really interested in hoping to find some type of, there's no general way that's going to help every single person, but hopefully find different outlets for different people, different ways of thinking for different people. If we can help a couple people, that's really all I want. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the Kip and Company Entertainment Talk Show, but it is the Let's Rise version, and this will be airing, I'm guessing right now. I'm going to be doing it every Friday. So yeah, that's TBD though, so to be determined for you Lamanites out there. Lamanites. Only the Utahns get that one. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Peace. Oh, actually, one more thing. I do want to leave you. I almost forgot this, and this is, I think, important. I want to leave you with this short little snippet of a speech that Dr. Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist, he gave in front of a very large crowd. It was just moments before he was actually rushed. It was actually during this speech the stage got rushed by a young man coming up to talk to him. It's pretty dramatic, actually. He comes running up and screaming that he needs help and all this. And I mean, this is in front of a crowd of, has to be 20,000 people. But anyway, this is a short bit of that speech, and it really hit home with me. So here it is, and enjoy, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
It's never been a mystery to me why people are depressed. It's never been a mystery to me why people are anxious and unsettled. It seems obvious why they're concerned and hurt and anxious and unsettled. I think the mystery is how it is that we can conduct ourselves so that can remain under control. I mean, people deal with very heavy burdens in their life. You don't have to talk to someone for very long. Someone you might be thinking is doing quite well in the world, and sometimes people are. But you don't have to scratch very deep beneath the surface before you find out that they have a family member who has a serious illness, or someone who is suffering through an economic crisis of one form or another, or who there's some source of genuine tragedy 1 degree removed from them, if it's even removed. And most people, even as individuals, have at least one serious problem that they're dealing with. And so it's no mystery that people find it difficult to orient themselves in the world. And the mystery is, well, what can you do about it? And we do know what you can do about it. And Jonathan Haidt wrote a book recently. I'm afraid that it's the name of the book has escaped me. It's about the college situation, and the snowflake culture. And one of the things that he pointed out, along with Luginov, who's his co-author, was that if you're a psychotherapist of any sort, particularly a behavior therapist, what you help people do is to identify their problems. That's the first thing, is to confront what's there, the reality of what's there, as bluntly as possible. And so you often end up as a psychotherapist talking to people about their array of problems. It's as if they're putting their cards on the table. And you sort out their problems. It's like, and no, they often decide that many of the things that are bothering them are not really that important. They can wait, but that there are crucial life challenges that present themselves to them. And they're not just psychological problems, although sometimes they are. They're problems in life, like existential problems. And then what you do is you help people break them down into manageable units, let's say, strategically, and confront them voluntarily. You know, and there's an echo of that idea. There's an echo of that in Christian thinking, and the echo for that is to pick up your cross voluntarily, which is that you have an unavoidable mortal burden to bear in life. There's no escape from it except to directly confront it and to take it on voluntarily. And what's so fascinating about that, two things. One is that psychotherapists of every stripe understand that this is one of the primary reasons that psychotherapy works. There's no dispute about that among all the different psychotherapeutic schools, is that the confrontation of existential problems, voluntary confrontation, is curative. And that's really something. And so, and the practical aspect of that is quite straightforward. It also indicates, practical and philosophical, it also indicates to you that there's far more to you than you think, because it turns out that you have substantial problems, genuine, deep problems of malevolence and suffering, but that if you decide that you'll take that on as your responsibility, that you can put yourself together psychologically, just the courage, and you can actually solve the problems. And that seems to be true. It's not a naive wish. It seems to be well within our capacity. And I mean, that's part of the message, I would say, of 12 Rules for Life, is that dark as things are, there's more light in you than you know what to do with, and there's more light in you than you can possibly manage.